Good afternoon, Wolfpack members. I have I have good news for y'all. I have finally learned how to edit. I have finally learned how to properly edit. So from now on, you may get to see more interesting videos from me at this point. But that's on an entirely different side note because what we're really here for is to talk about one of my favorite animes in the history of ever, matter of fact. So this will be a review on an anime I love. This will be a review on the anime called Ajin. I love this show. Now, before we get bef- now the first thing I want to say about Ajin was that at first I didn't even give it a chance. As you guys know, biggest my two biggest turnoffs for an anime are bad are bad character design, not no, bad art style rather, and a confusing plot. I expected Ajin to be as badass in 3D, to be as badass in 3D as Guts was in Berserk, as well as the anime Berserk. I expected it to be at least I expected it to be at least better than Kagewani. I expected it to be at least better in that department than Kagewani. I shit you not. I shit you not. I automatically stopped looking at Kagewani simply because of the fact that the art style was absolute shit to me. So when I go back and upon further inspection of the anime Ajin, I finally notice how badass it is and decide to keep watching it till the end. And now there's and now upon doing that and upon closer inspection of the anime that I did today, not too long ago even, I decided to go ahead and make a review about it. So let's get into this, shall we? The first thing that I want to say about Ajin was that when I first saw it, I was a little bit confused. At first, in the very first episode, we start off with this. In the very first episode, we start off with this war. At the very first episode, we start off with this one man war. We got a bunch of ragtag soldiers with guns shooting at this. We got a bunch of ragtag soldiers with guns shooting at this hulk of a man that that appears to be nigh immortal, considering the fact that he won't go down no matter how many times he gets shot. A bunch of the soldiers go up to the monstrous thing and get killed. And then there's a certain focus on this one guy who is seen shooting the Ajin as well. Who is seen shooting the monster as well. And then what happened was he went up to the thing and he went up to the man and was this close to dying, this close, before he was saved by the American military, who swooped in on a helicopter and shot the guy with tranquilizer darts. After that, after that, like I, after that, it was it shot us directly into the anime where we see it shot us directly into the anime where we see one of two things happen. Y'all tell me which one. Um, it was either it was either it was either K, the main character, and his friends walking, or a backstory, or a backstory, or a scene of backstory that no one knows about, but that no one originally knew about until they watched more of the anime. So what happened was that so what happened after either of those was the fact that Kay and his friends were walking. Okay, so Kay and his friends were walking down the street having a nice little conversation, and Kay barely paid any attention to any of his acquaintances there because he was studying for what appeared to be a final exam that was going on in the school. So upon upon closer inspection, without even letting us know this out front, we can already tell. I mean, without even letting us know this out front, we can already tell that K is smart. Like we can already tell that K is smart, or at least that he's dedicated. So, or at least that he's dedicated. So, upon closer inspection and further into the anime, we see K take a close look at somebody who's sitting in front of a supermarket, at somebody who's sitting in front of a store eating. K K something is it is revealed that K somehow knows this person. It is revealed that K somehow knows this person, and they lock eyes for a second. And then K's little acquaintances that he's walking with, K's little acquaintances that he's walking with, asks him if he knows that person. K completely ignores the fact. K completely ignores the fact that the two of them had locked eye contact, and then says no. I don't know. Says I don't know him at all. And then further on into the anime, when they're at school, like further on into the anime where they're at school, at a point where they're at school, it can be heard it can be heard being taught by the teacher, probably as a side lesson, no, probably as a side lesson, that Ajin, that Ajin are, as I said before, it can be it can be heard being taught by the teacher that Ajin, a race like a race of not immortal humans, which was also corresponding to the guy in the beginning of the first episode, and that they can't be killed, and that there are at least three, and that there are at least three Ajin in Japan, and that there are at least three Ajin in Japan. The others have been caught and experimented on, which is what we see two students, which is what we see two students doing as they are holding a smartphone and looking at a video of what appears to be of what appears to be experimentation upon an Ajin. The Ajin dies, and the Ajin dies, and the Ajin dies, and as that happens, we see K getting a glimpse of that as well as he ends up being attracted, being as his attention ends up being attracted towards, as his attention ends up being drawn towards the video. This peaks this piques K's interest, and we are automatically brought to the realization that this will be important somehow. That this will be important somehow. K then asks a question about the Ajins. K then asks a question about the Ajins that the teacher then answers. Once he gets his answers, he sits down and class continues as usual. Once that's over, it cuts to a scene where K and his friends are walking across a sidewalk. Where K and his friends are walking across a sidewalk. Which cut did it cut to? Never mind. It was either it was either it was a cut to K and his friends walking or K on the bus because I believe I'm cutting out an entire part. Oh yes, it was K on the bus. K was on the bus and had decided to visit his sister after after noticing after noticing after noticing the guy who his friends thought he used to know. And as it turns out, he did used to know him on account of the fact that there was a backstory in where his mother forbid him to see this man in order to keep him on track in his studies. Sorry y'all. um so what happened after that was Kay went to see his sister, and it is automatically assumed that his sister hates his ass, which she does. And it is never explained why. It is never fully explained why she hates his ass. She just hates his ass. So after a tense conversation between him and his sister, he finally gets the information. He finally gets the information he needed from his sister. He not matter of fact, no, he didn't get any information because his sister refused to talk to him. He's like Kay brought flowers, by the way. Once Kay leaves, his sister has the flowers thrown away by a nurse that shows up. His sister has the flowers thrown away by a nurse that shows up. But that's side note stuff. So at that point, so after that point, then we are seeing that him and his friends then we see that him and his friends are walking on along the sidewalk waiting for are walking along the sidewalk. Why? Where was I going? Oh yeah, never mind. Oh yes, I almost forgot his name. K is sidetracked. K is sidetracked by the negative emo by the negative treatment he got from his sister, and then he ends up getting hit by a bus. And then he ends up getting hit by a bus. And this is where shit gets real because he when he is hit by a bus, when he is hit by a bus, he when he is hit by a bus, he gets up. He is supposed to be dead because the bus ran him over. However, he gets up after a lot of struggling. His body is put back together. He has all the blood stains and everything, but his body is put back together. And then this is where his so-called friends begin to piss me off because they are looking at this man like I don't even know you anymore. His so-called friends are looking at Kay like I don't even know you anymore. Who are you? And then after pleading his case, and then after pleading his case, after pleading his case and begging and pleading and trying to convince them that he's human and not an Ajin, He runs away. He runs away. What would you do in that situation? He runs away. So what happens after that is so what happens after that so what happens after that is in his running, he somehow finds himself is in his running, he somehow finds himself back at his house, and he can't go back there, and he can't go back there, and he can't go back there because and he can't go back there after realizing this about himself. So what he does is he runs into the woods where he finds out that policemen are now tracking his ass down. Where he finds out that policemen are now tracking his ass down. He makes a call. He makes a call to his best friend. He makes a call to his best friend, the guy who was sitting down near the store, whose name we now know at that point to be Kai, and Kai immediately goes to help him. And Kai immediately consoles him and goes to help him. He tells he tells Kay to stay out of trouble, and he tells Kay to stay out of trouble, and Kay he tells Kay to stay out of trouble, and Kay sits near a tree waiting for his friend. A cop sees Kay and goes to capture him. Kai shows up and beats Kai shows up and kicks the cop in the head. Kai shows up and kicks the cop in the head. And then saves and then him and Kai and then him and Kay hop on Kay's motorcycle and run like hell. But in this point we have already seen quite a few things. First of all, there are quite a few. There are quite a few things that have meaning in the parts that I have just mentioned. Because early in the anime, I believe I cut out a part about about there being there being a little backstory of Kay and his sister. His sister's goldfish died, and Kay showed no reaction. His sister's goldfish died, and Kay showed no reaction. Kay was like, "Don't we all die?" or some shit like that. And then he ends up noticing this strange black shadow that obviously has so much to do with the plot, but can't nobody else see it but him. And then this also contributes to why his sister hates his ass. We can kind of understand why his sister hates his ass, but even still to this day I don't fully understand why she hates him so much. But that I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. In that, in another part that I just explained, we also see that Kay is very dedicated to what he's doing, which is studying at the time, and he also had a friend. And he also had a friend before he got dumped into focusing on his studies. We get background on Kay having to split. We get background on Kay having to split with his friend, and we also see a connection between him and his friend, early on in the anime before we are even let into the fact that they are friends. So what happens after that what happens after that lets us know what the anime itself is going to be about. It's like, okay, so obviously these so-called Ajin have something to do with the plot, and K is somehow central in it. And then since we figured that out, it gets to the point where K is run over by the bus, and we see that K is in fact an Ajin. I mean, like after a little action, suspense, phantasmagoria going on between the police, Kai, and his family. I mean, between the police, Kai, and his family, we see that Kai has run into the woods. The police are chasing him, and Kai ends up saving him. We obviously see at that point that Kai and Kai have been friends. I mean, Kai and Kai are very close friends at that point in time, and that K is obviously and that K is obviously the more mature of the two in the fact that K and that Kai is obviously the more mature of the two in that Kai is sitting here consoling K and saving his ass from the police. So upon that, we get Kay and Kai on the motorcycle. We get Kay and Kai on the motorcycle running from the police, and then when they finally escape from the police, we also see that another group is chasing. We also see that another man on a motorcycle is chasing the two of them, and then they end up hiding, and then they end up hiding in a and then they end up hiding in a cottage on the mountain where the two of them where the two of them stay for a couple of days. Where the two of them stay for a couple of days. Already, already we are let into Kay's personality, Kai's personality, and the personality of his so-called friends who I hate so much, and the personality of his so-called friends who I hate so much, and the tone and setting and plot of the anime. in this in this already we have enough action and suspense stuff going on to keep us interested, while also letting us know more about the characters without blatantly telling us about them. So the entire concept of Ajin as a whole is the fact that there are these nigh immortal human beings known as the Ajin. It turns out to be that the main character is one of these Ajin, and the entire plot centers around him being an Ajin, and the entire plot centers around him being an Ajin and what happens around him because of him, and what happens around him to the other Ajin that he has made contact with. This entire anime in itself is full of suspense, action, and enough mystery to keep you interested, and that's kind of why I like it. And I suppose at that point, with all the talking I've been doing, we can kind of shut this off now. And I suppose at that point, with all the talking I've been doing, we can kind of shut this off now. So, I guess I'll be seeing you guys later today. Let me know if you want me to do a part 2 to this video, because there is even more because there is even more of Ajin that I have not explored. So let me know if you want me to do a part 2 to this video. Let me know if you like this video by commenting, and subscribing, and let me know if there's anything in any other review you guys want me to do. I'll be seeing y'all later today. This is the Lightning Wolf God signing off.